because if you look at, the African market, we're talking about over 1 billion people, right?
Yeah.
Compared to, a startup that is using the most exciting fermentation process that's based in the States, that has like 1 billion competitors. The impact that we can make if we get it right is way larger.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruby, founder of For Future, a platform connecting individuals with initiatives that are working on safeguarding humanity's long-term future, addressing issues such as climate change, AI safety, and bioengineering. Today, I'm thrilled to have Olaoluwa, the founder of Casa Vegan, joining me. He'll be sharing with us all about Casa Vegan and its mission. Let's dive right in as Olaoluwa tells us about how it all began.
Of like the vegan or protein options available in the market, especially within the Nigerian and the African space. And I thought, okay, what can I do to initially solve my personal problem in terms of, okay, what protein options do I have when I go home, and what healthier protein options do we have across the continent. But obviously, at that point, I started doing research, and then I, understood, the impact of alternative protein on climate change and sustainability, especially like things like food inflation across Africa, because a lot of what we use or consume is imported, which then means you have like a FX impact on everything that is being sold across the whole of Africa, which again is not ideal for a growing economy, right? So, it went from being, just a personal health, I guess, need for me to consume protein to like the bigger picture in terms of, okay, how do we find a solution to, the bigger problems that we face as the humankind, I guess. And one thing, I wanted to do was, okay, look at, how do we use local ingredients as well, because a lot of what you have in the market, especially in the UK and or in Europe and in the US, are alternative protein items that have a lot of artificial ingredients or artificial additives. And one thing I wanted to do consciously was, okay, how do we provide alternatives that were actually healthier, as opposed to cutting down on meat, but then eating a lot of artificial additives that you couldn't even pronounce half the time.
Yeah.
And so I spent about a year doing research in terms of, okay, what ingredients are being used in the UK. I don't want to call any company names or anything like that. And what do we have locally that are 100% natural that we can replace, to provide something that tasted good? Because I think the first thing in terms of providing an alternative is the taste, right? It still needs to taste good, because no matter how the amount of good you're doing, good for the planet, good for the health, it still needs to taste good. It's food. So, it tasted good, and had the right nutritional profile to provide to our consumers, I guess. So we played around. I think we went through about 5 or 6 prototypes, which, yeah, so initially it was just me in my kitchen in London playing around with different recipes. And getting friends to come over and try it out. And then I started working with like a food development agency at some point, just because I wanted it to be, I wanted to do the actual testing and analysis as well, not just the taste. So yeah, and we got something that we thought worked, and since then I brought it to the idea was to then do a lot of more focus groups in terms of the consumer market that we're looking at initially, in terms of the African taste, the African market and the Nigerian market, because what we wanted to do was create something that provided a familiar taste as well. We didn't want it to be a foreign product. We didn't want it to taste like your Impossible Burger or whatever it is. We wanted it to still have that local flavor and smell and taste. Yeah, since then we've done a lot of focus groups and a lot of events, and yeah, I'll pause there in case you have any questions.
Yeah. So it's focused mainly on the African market, is that correct?
So that was the initial plan. So the initial plan was because what we do is we work with farmers, we work with local vendors to source items grown and sourced locally. to then create the product. We wanted it to be, we didn't want to create something in Nigeria, for example, and then immediately export it out, because it kind of defeats the purpose if we're not solving the problem that is closer to home. So the initial idea was, yes, to create it and market within Nigeria, market within Africa, but our roadmap is to, yes, ultimately make it available in the UK, make it available in Europe, make it available, in the US.
Yeah. But the flavor profile is more tailored to the African taste profile, or is it just generic kind of?
It's more, yeah, it's more tailored to the African taste profile,
Okay.
especially because of the gap in the market, which was something we wanted to stick to. Because if you look at population wise, every continent or every country in the world has got like a large population of Africans, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing that particularly is tailored to them, and the flavors that we like, or the flavors that we're used to.
Yeah, that's really interesting. In terms of the taste profile, do you try to make it taste like the actual meat, or do you, or not really?
So the idea is for it to taste like meat. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what we have right now is a very beef. Replacements, I guess. So they taste like beef. They look like beef. And the idea is for it to taste like beef. But then we use things like locust beans, for example, which is used traditionally in local dishes and local stews, which gives it that fermentation and umami flavor. So yes, it does taste like beef, but then we wanted people to smell it and taste it and feel like, oh yes, this is home, right? Which is the idea.
Yeah.
Because it's a foreign concept in itself, right? So the more familiar they are with the flavors, the smells, the taste, makes it, I guess, not as foreign, even though it is still foreign in terms of alternative protein within the continent.
So when you try to convince customers to try this product, what sort of likes and dislikes do they have?
So I think the first thing is the texture, right? Because people expect it to be a one-for-one substitute. Obviously, we're doing some R&D in the background, but what we have right now, yes, it's chewy, but Africans like chewy. When I say chewy, Africans like to chew for a long time to enjoy the flavor of whatever it is they're eating. So what we have now doesn't necessarily replicate that on a one-for-one basis. So that's the initial feedback. But I think once people, it's all about perception, right? Once people understand, okay, yes, it's not, for right now anyway, it's not a one-for-one replacement in terms of chewability, but everything else, in terms of the texture itself, the ability to flavor, the ability to season, the ability to use it in different things, it's a direct replacement. They kind of understand that, and the taste and the flavors that we can capture in terms of using it for different dishes is something they're very happy with as well, because that's similar to what you have when you use beef, I guess.
Yeah. Are Africans, do they care about eating more plant-based as well? Kind of like the larger market?
Not yet. So a lot of what we've been doing, which I guess is kind of is a good and bad thing, right? Because as a startup, what we want to do is focus on sales, right? Because we want to, obviously, we're a business. It's all about the bottom line, right? But what we've been having to do, especially this year, is a lot of awareness and campaigns. Because we want people to understand, what it is we're doing, first of all, and understand the benefits of what we're doing. And again, it's a very foreign concept to a lot of people, because they've never even heard about the idea in terms of using, plant-based alternatives to create protein, right? So yeah, I think initially what we've been trying to do is just create that awareness and create that familiarity in terms of, okay, yes, this is available, this is what it tastes like, this is what it looks like, this is what you can do with it. And then, we've been getting people on board from that.
Yeah. How have you found, is it easy for you to get marketing and PR coverage on what you're doing?
No, it's not. No, it's been a uphill battle
Mm,
because again, it's not. I guess to a lot of people, it's not the most pressing issue. I guess
mm,
because people don't necessarily understand the correlation between a plant-based alternative protein and climate change and sustainability. Because I guess it's not directly correlated.
mm,
So again, I think because we are aware of that, the campaigns that we're doing and the strategic partnerships we're trying to put in place to make the right noise and to create the right picture for people, I guess is helping with that. But again, that's a long-term, I guess, process, which is, I mean, it's something that we're aware of. But as a startup, yes, I think it would be nice to get more PR, more marketing coverage. But I guess for now, it's not really at the forefront of people's minds,
yeah.
which is why we're trying to do a lot more campaign and awareness and taste events where people can actually see, taste, and then be educated on why it's so important, and why it's almost the easiest option to fight the some of the issues that we're facing.
Yeah. Are you mainly targeting the local or like the African market PR and marketing uh, companies or international?
So I mean, I think up until now it's just been local. But I mean, what we are trying to do from Q1, Q2 next year is start supplying to the UK, for example.
Mm,
So I mean, that would, yes, require us to start looking international. So we're starting to look at what shows we can attend, what companies we can work with and things like that. So yes, I think up until now it's just been local.
yeah. Uh, what about in terms of investors? Like, what sort of other, has there been any particular challenges or struggles in convincing investors to come on board?
Yeah, I think because I think first of all because I mean, predominantly we've been African or locally focused. I think maybe people don't necessarily, because of the lack of PR and marketing compared to
Mm,
international competition. I guess it's been
mm,
very hard to
mm,
get the right. I guess investor profile, I guess, is important because I mean I think what's key isn't just the money, right? Especially in the market we're trying to operate. I think it needs to be an investor that's mission aligned, because obviously the market we're working on isn't it's not straightforward sales driven. I guess it's more about, okay, we still need to do a lot of campaign and awareness
mm,
to create that demand. It's almost like reverse engineering is how I like to explain it a lot of the times. And sometimes especially with a VC, for example, they don't necessarily get that. It's all about, okay, I'm giving you X amount and I need X
yeah.
in X amount of time, right? Which sometimes isn't necessarily plausible, especially in the market that we're in at the moment, because it's still a growing market. Um, but yeah, it's been very hard to get the right investors and the right attention and get into the right space.
Mm,
But I think once we start looking at the UK market and start working with the right people, I think that would probably help resolve some of those issues.
yeah. Very interesting. Are there anything, other challenges do you think that for future or maybe not for future that you think could you could use help with?
So I mean, other than like funding, one, I mean, the key thing, especially, but then this is a local problem, to be honest. I think is the staffing. So I mean, and I guess being a startup as well, because we don't have large amount of funding, it's hard to get the right level of talent.
Mm,
But I don't know if
mm,
that is an international startup problem or if that's just local to the market we're in.
mm,
So I mean, I guess to get, especially I think being a lone founder, because I'm trying to get more senior people
mm,
on the team, so that way I don't necessarily have to do as much hand holding. Because to date, I've had to work with um, either entry level um, individuals or interns, just to almost manage the budget and manage delivery as well. But then that then requires me to do a lot of hand holding,
Okay.
which takes me away from the bigger picture of what I'm trying to achieve as a startup. So yeah, I don't know if that's something that, the platform can help with,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's something that I'm working with GFI on as well, because GFI have like a resource, a database of professionals
Yeah.
that are interested based on, and they like list their interest, whether they want to volunteer, whether it's pro bono, whether so that kind of helps. So I'm working with GFI to take a look at how we can find candidates, for example, to do some R&D for us in terms of some of the ingredients that we're looking to use, because one of the things that we focused on as well is upcycling. So we're looking at what ingredients cause issues or cause waste within the African continent, and how can we upcycle those ingredients to give added value. So right now we have an upcycling profile of 25% in our current product, and we're trying to increase that to about 50% by Q2 or Q3 next year.
That's really cool. What sort of struggles did you come across when trying to pitch PR companies to talk about Casa Vegan and going plant-based?
I mean, I think the first thing is a lot of, because of the market we're in, and because of the fact that we're still at a growth stage. I mean, we're not a technology-based company, I guess. Not that the product isn't good, but a lot of, for example, competition in the US or in Europe are very advanced in terms of the alternative protein that they're providing, whether they're doing some kind of like advanced fermentation process or whether they're using some kind of advanced technology. But I mean, with us, it's more of a social impact.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily, it's not so we're not necessarily technology focused yet. Obviously, we're hoping we can get to that stage. So I guess, in terms of when, I've spoken to different companies, I mean, we get put at the bottom of the pile because of that reason, because they're looking for the next tech or the next, most exciting fermentation process. And it's not necessarily about the impact that's being made, right? Which has been I mean, I guess it's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. But I mean, I guess it's just about finding the right partners that understand, the mission we're on and the impact that we can provide. Because if you look at, the African market, we're talking about over 1 billion people, right?
Yeah.
Compared to, a startup that is using the most exciting fermentation process that's based in the States, that has like 1 billion competitors. The impact that we can make if we get it right is way larger. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand that because they're looking for the next best thing they can invest in, right? Because that's generally the nature of the game.
Cool. Yeah.
I mean, if you have any feedback or if you have any pointers, by all means, please just drop me a line. I think we're still a startup, we're still growing, and I think any feedback we always love to take on board and see how we can make good change.
Sure, yeah. Thank you very much. Maybe it'll be a good idea for me, like if I talk to more organizations, especially in the alternative protein space, maybe like put it all together into an article. Maybe that would be useful.
Yeah, that would be definitely amazing. Yeah. And I think if there's a way to, I don't know what your plans are, but I mean, if there's a way for different founders in the same space to be able to maybe necessarily be able to network with each other, I guess, through your platform, I think that would be pretty amazing as well.
Cool.
Because a lot of a lessons learned space or something, I think that'd be amazing.
Great. Yeah, that's a great idea. We have a forum space on For Future, and I think that would, I think I can start to build that up.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, thank you for your time. Thank you for reaching out, and thank you for the interest as well. And like I said, I think what you're doing is amazing. And I think just keep going. I think that's the only advice I could give. Right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily always easy, but you just need to remember, why you got into it in the first place, right? And not be scared to pivot.
Yeah. Best of luck with Casa Vegan as well. I think what you're doing is also super amazing and really an untapped opportunity that I think more people should be paying attention to.